a really good friend of mine, and this is how we met. He shared a video on LinkedIn. There's a saying that we all know: a jack of all trades is a master of none. I was jaded by that saying, and I thought that I would never be successful. There's a whole other side to it. So it goes, a jack of all trades is a master of none, but oftentimes better than a master of one. What's up, guys? Welcome back to another installment of the Perspective Podcast. My name's Devin, my co-host Mitch, and on this episode, we're talking about the allocation of money and resources to properly scale and grow your business in a predictable way without getting yourself in any trouble along the way.
Yeah, I just think allocation of money is something that is very unattended to, whether it's a small business or a large corporation. And just buying something or not buying something because that's viewed as extra money. Yeah, it is extra money if you're not, looking at where your money's going out.
Well, yeah, if you're not operating your business properly.
Yeah. Like last week I read they found a guy that was on payroll for 30 years or something. I don't know if it was 30 years, but it was like almost a full career. Never showed up a day in his life.
What?
Yeah. But it was just losing, getting lost in the system. He never did come to work, but he got put on payroll. So that same company, you could turn around. I don't know if they ever did. They turn around and they're like, "Oh, I don't want to spend, an extra $500 on this ad campaign on this deal that we have going on." Well, you just lost, I don't know, over 30 years. Let's say you're paying even $60,000, $70,000. It's a lot of money that you just put out for nothing, literally nothing. That's probably the most expensive decision or lack of that you ever made. So, just those monitoring and that's where and not just a business development coach, but just somebody to check over things. And the problem is those people, when they come in, they're always looking at the wrong things because they feel like they have to justify their existence. But when you have someone that focuses on, hey, I'm not talking about budget. I don't want to cut anyone's budgets in their departments. I'm just here to say, are you getting a return for these decisions? Right. And that return can be more than just revenue. The coffee station, like you start looking at some of these businesses and they're like, oh, we're going to cut the coffee because they don't see the value in that. Okay. So you cut the coffee. Now you have unhappy workers that was kind of their mental break to have a chat and collaborate and get kind of that culture going. But you cut it because it's like, oh, they're just talking.
Yeah,
they're not working.
$400 a month on coffee. That's too much of an expense. I'm going to take that away. Now these guys are taking longer breaks because they got to go somewhere to get that same thing that they're going to need anyways.
And they're less productive during the day.
Yeah. You lower their productivity. You cut the amount of time they spend actually working on it. So in the long run, like per person, it will cost you an additional $500 every month. Let's say you have a team of 10 people. That's $4,000 a month. You're trying to save on a small thing, the $400 a month on coffee and sugar and cream. Mm-hmm. And you'll never piece that together unless you're like doing a deep dive or you're doing a deep examination.
Yeah.
Something that, a coach would come in and tell you about. Yeah. It's like, why don't you have coffee for the guys that need the coffee?
Yeah. That water, that's, that saying, oh, just sitting around the water cooler and chatting. Can that be abused? Yeah, it can. Like there's a lot of people that waste time, but does that mean that, you should cut that out totally? Because guys that waste time at work, they don't respect their employer. They don't respect their job. They don't care. They're there for a paycheck. And that's why those types of businesses need so many people to actually do the whatever task that business is doing, whatever industry they're in, because they need all those people because they're only working at half pace. But you get a smaller family-run business, and that has its own challenges. But if you get into that company, and even though you're not family, but you feel like family, you work harder. And you don't work harder because you've got a gun to your head. you work harder because you enjoy what you're doing and you're having fun and you have a sense of pride. And that doesn't have to stay just with small little family run businesses. That culture can be moved into larger corporations, but it's not, they're chose not to. They'll spend just as much money on lawn care, right? They don't cut that.
Right. What's that for? How many people, like to an office, how many people actually come to the office to do business with them versus, whatever, if they were, let's say an online business or something like that. That's an ego play. See, I love, Google got this right. As much as people might think Google's some big evil machine, they're rated one of the top employers in the world. And that's because they shifted their management style from task oriented. Like, here is task, go do task. When you're done task, come back to me for next task. So that's task oriented management. They switched it to goal oriented management. So I don't care what it takes. This is the goal that you're trying to reach. You, as the employee now, are empowered to make all the decisions that need to be made in order for you to achieve that goal within the guidelines of, our moral and ethical, the way we operate and the way we do business. So you can do that at your own pace. And when you do reach that goal and you need the next goal, we'll provide that for you. But it's a much longer term, projection or thinking in how people can be empowered themselves, make their own decisions, become autonomous, right? Like I think about the example that you used earlier before, like when we first started talking about the guy that like he's a really great worker, but he's had his hands tied because previous management has just given him a task because they're afraid he's going to grow and, not need them anymore. And then they can't earn any money off of him or whatever the situation may be. But had he been goal oriented, that is intrinsically rewarding for a human being to set and achieve goals, to be a part of a big thing. Right. And then they can stand back and look at the big thing that they're a part of and have pride in the work that they do, but it makes them happier. See, Google, that you can come to work and literally do no work. You can play pool, you can have a nap, you can eat all day long and not do a single thing in that day. And and you still get paid because that's a day that you need to reset or reorganize or get your mind right. Or, maybe you needed to take a break from that project because you were at an impasse. And then in those breaks and in those moments where you're not completely concentrated on it, your subconscious mind figures things out. And then you come back to it the next day and you're 100% productive for 12 hours because you're so passionate about achieving the goal that was set out for you that now you're doing the things rather than spreading that productivity over a couple of hours a day, day in and day out, because there's one task that you need to accomplish and all this other stuff. So Google and Facebook both have that a very similar principle there, in that it doesn't matter as long as you're working towards achieving that goal, you set out what that path looks like.
Yeah. And I think a lot of businesses, like when I say doing a deep dive with businesses, like I said, I think that they sometimes deep dive in the wrong pools. Right. A lot of the deep dives that I see done in businesses, it's like, how many staff do you have? How much are you paying them? And I think that's the wrong question to ask. Because there was a business that I knew, it was a good sized company that had good contracts. They lost some of their best people because they were like, we're going to cut your salary in half. And for what? Because we should be making more money. Well, at the same time, you're turning around and you have 3 departments that could be consolidated without cutting people or pay, and they would get more jobs. They would get more work, more revenue for you. And then it's just an allocation shift. But the first reaction is always cut. Well,
right. Stop.
You're handcuffing yourself. Yeah, because everyone has a value. They bring something to the table, skills and a work ethic. And if they don't, then yeah, that's a cut. Or teach them how to. Maybe there's an underlying problem there. But I don't think cutting should be your first solution, or cutting pay. Because when you cut someone's pay, you're telling them, I don't value you as much as I did before, or I value my paycheck more than yours as the business owner. I want to drive that Ferrari. I don't care if I have to put you back into a Saturn, right? And that's the start of a toxic relationship. And that's how you don't retain people. That's how you don't grow. Because now you're going to start investing because you decided to cut someone's wage. You're going to have to invest in onboarding. And onboarding, hiring and firing is probably one of the most expensive things in the employee world that a company can do. You're better off investing and paying a little bit more for retention than hiring and firing. Because onboarding is extremely expensive because it takes more than one person. It takes a whole team to onboard somebody. And if you're going to do it with, say, an automation system, like a PowerPoint or whatever, it takes time to build that. And then you have to provide basically separate computers or software for that you're paying for. Like, it's just, it goes on and on. But the deep dive always starts with how much are you paying your employees? That should never be the first question. If you're going to talk about wages, say, are you paying them enough to keep your retention? Because that's a profitable, right? But it's backwards from what most corporations and small companies look at. They view employees as liabilities, not assets. But it's like they'll turn around and they'll spend, they'll spend way excess of their profits on software not being used, as we've talked about, or groundskeeping that they don't actually have. They have two things. And it's like, well, if you just paid someone an extra 3 hours of overtime, that would save you money than hiring a groundskeeper. Now, if you have a lot, a groundskeeper is worth it. But, what's that return on? You want to spend $5,000 a month on grounds, or you want to spend $450 in some overtime to get it done? Having a cleaning service or a janitor, I'm all for it. I have lots of friends that have cleaning companies and there's a value to that. But in your specific situation, is it worth the money? Are you willing to cut employees and devalue them and nickel and dime them, but pay more than that to a cleaning service because that's just what you do as a business? Or do you pay an extra 2 hours of overtime to somebody who wants it and get them to take out the garbage? Like, where you want to talk about saving money? Don't save money by cutting employees. Don't save money by cutting salaries, because keeping the salaries up is how you keep people. It's how you keep them productive. That's an incentive. You're taking away their incentive. What a terrible business choice, right? And then you look at companies like we have, right? Between a marketing agency, a business development agency. Oh, well, you guys are so expensive. Well, first of all, you haven't asked how much we charge.
Right.
And because you just assume that it's a lot of money, because there are guys out there that charge a ton of money for what we do.
Right.
And then second of all, you're not seeing the return on investment. So you go buy software that you don't use just to have it, which gives you no return on investment. You can't put that into a number. Whereas I can turn around with our program and say, I can guarantee, with some parameters, within 3 months, return on investment for everything I've charged. Potentially even sooner than that. But and you could do that probably sooner.
Right. And that's the first thing that comes to my head is like, okay, regardless of what your business is doing right now, if you're spending this much money and you're making this much money, would it not make sense to spend more of this money to get more of this money? That's as simple as it gets. Like, if I step into,
but if that ratio isn't equal, then you're doing it wrong.
Right. And that's where, somebody like me who understands this comes in and goes, okay, let's look at what's happening here. We're spending $5,000 a month. 3 of that's on print. Another 2's on, dead media, maybe doing a radio ad or something like that. And you're still sitting exactly where you are, but you're afraid that if you're not spending this money here, that these people aren't going to continue to do business with you. But the problem is that that's stagnant. So you're spending $1 and you're making $1 back. And that's why you're not growing. But if we take what's happening over here and instead we take the $2,000 or $3,000 that's on print and we put it into an active media, something that's actually that actually has attention, like social media or like the internet in a plethora of different ways. Now, when you spend $1 here, you're making $3.
Yeah.
So you make that $1 and you're getting the $3 back, and no longer are you fighting to stay floating. You're actually like inflating the boat so that you get bigger. There's a completely different concept, but people aren't, they're not privy to this information, mostly because, just a lack of information or a lack of education or whatever it is. maybe from the college or education that they got. I don't suspect that that's the case with all 15% of people who start businesses. I think maybe 1% of the people that start businesses actually went to college. It might be a little bit more than that percentage, but I think the other 14% of people are just people who are really, really good at something and said, you know what, instead of going and, like, let's say I'm really good at math. Instead of going and working at an accounting firm, I'm just going to start my own little accounting agency. I'm going to buy some tax software. I'm going to just do business taxes because that's a really easy point of entry in that. And I help a few friends and then they refer me. And, you know, now I got 10 clients, but I'm like, okay, well, I need to grow or whatever the situation may be. I'm maybe not making enough money. So how do I do that? Well, I have no idea. So maybe I'll try to run a Facebook ad. I boosted a post and it didn't get me new customers because I don't know how it works. And rather than admitting that I don't know how it works, maybe I should find somebody who knows how it works, just like businesses should find me because they don't know how money or numbers work. You know what I'm saying? So you put yourself in this catch-22 and you're constantly chasing your tail, never affording yourself the opportunity to grow. And when you look at the areas in your business where you're spending money irresponsibly.
That's the word I've been looking for. Because that's what it is.
Yeah.
You know,
because even further than that, you take it deeper. Like if you're not helping the people that you should be helping, you're actually hurting. Like if you're a doctor and you know how to save people whose, you know, hearts are failing, and you're not finding new people whose hearts are failing, you're killing people. And maybe that might be really dramatic or drastic for some people, but I think the same thing applies to just about anything. We can say the same thing. If you're a musician and you're not getting your music to the right people, and that, you know, somebody was having really dark thoughts and you didn't find your music that would have saved them, and now they off themselves, like, you know what I'm saying? You could have saved that life if you had made that decision. So it really is fundamentally irresponsible not to be doing these things properly.
I've seen businesses too put a lot of money into aesthetics, and I'm not talking marketing or brand awareness. I mean aesthetics. All their fleet trucks have $4,000 rims, or, you know, just things like really showy like that. And I'm like, you better have a ton of extra revenue and never have anything short for your employees or any wants or needs from them before you make a decision like that, because there's no value added to that. Right? That's an ego thing. And I see it a lot, especially in more kind of affluent areas where guys are making a lot more money in their businesses, which is fine. Like I said, that's your decision to do what you want, but don't start turning around and you know, cutting a few employees because you had a bad month, but you go out and you buy, you know, really expensive things for your vehicles that, you know, could you have went without for that season rather than cutting somebody? That's not healthy business. That's someone wanting just to, you know, have a lifestyle and have it funded, right? Your choice of lifestyle and your business should be separate. If you can afford it based on what you're pulling out of your business after everything is covered off, yeah, go live in a mansion. I don't care. Have a pool, live in LA, do whatever you want, but don't do it at the expense of someone else not being able to afford what they want.
Right.
Because if you do that, and your employees are doing well, this is what I explained to one business. I'm like, if your employees are doing well and they're going out and they're buying a nice expensive truck, or they took their family on a vacation, what's your first thought? Because if your first thought is, wow, I am paying them too much,
that's toxic.
That's how you lose people.
Yeah.
But if you say, you know what, they're doing well, and because they're doing well, I haven't checked my bank account lately, I must be rocking it.
Yeah.
Now, if that's flipped where your employees are doing better than you, you're doing it wrong. You know, you should be, as a business owner, you should be benefiting from your company, right? And if you're not, it doesn't mean that your guys are making too much money. It means you're running your business wrong. It means there's some admin problems, or maybe just some allocation of fund problems. Maybe your supplier, going back to a business that, you know, that I knew fairly well, they went through their invoices. Not for a year did they check the pricing that they had been charged from their suppliers. They went back, they found over $50,000 of overcharges that they got credited for. 50 grand. That's almost a full salary for an employee.
Yeah.
You know, for what they were paying. that they never would have caught if somebody wouldn't said, let me go through your invoices. So let's kind of take that back to what we were talking. Let's say that you're full on employees, you're good, you don't want to hire anymore, you're happy, you're content, your employees are getting paid, but you have $50,000 in overcharges of something that you're not aware of because things are going well, so you never looked. And then you bring in a company like me. Am I going to charge you $50,000? I wish, but it's just not realistic. That's not how I bill. So now all of a sudden you've basically retained 50 grand minus, whatever rate I have for my services. And that's going in your pocket. That's pure profit. But it was unnecessary because you could have avoided that at the beginning just by having someone monitor that. I'm not against suppliers. I was in that industry, but things happen. Invoicing goes out, something got missed, and those little things add up, especially on bigger projects or bigger contracts. So
how much of this do you think is people just thinking that they know everything? Just thinking that, I know enough. I've run this business for 20 years.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying?
I would say that's a big part of it.
Guys are thinking in that way. Like, who are you to come into my business that I've been running for 20 years and tell me that I'm not doing it right? Like, how much of it do you think is that?
I would say a lot of it. The other part of it, and this might even overlap because maybe that's a larger part of it than what I'm seeing. But the other one too is these knee-jerk reactions. That costs businesses tons of money because it's like, oh, something went wrong. Here's the fix. Do it. Done. And it's like, yeah, but was that the most economical way of fixing that problem? Was that the best choice? But it was an instant fix. But it's like, but now that that's in place, whatever cost of that fix is now continuous until it's changed again. So what was the value of that fix? Right? There was actually, you probably were better off leaving the problem because you were bleeding less than what your fix is going to cost you in the long run. But it's those knee-jerk reactions. And it kind of goes back to that business with the invoicing. What was the knee-jerk reaction? Just pay the invoices. I don't want to get a call from them again.
Right. You're just chasing something.
You just because you're focused on something else and you don't have someone that's properly trained, obviously in your accounts receivable department, or somebody that's overwhelmed. So things get through the cracks because you've just dumped it all on them because you don't want to pay more than one person. And you're off in la la land doing what you're good at and thinking that you can run a business at the same time. You can't be boots on the ground and running a business at a certain level. You have to be that person when you start off, when you're small, but when you start growing, you have to be a manager.
When you
have to be able to manage people.
Yeah, you need to be able to go through the whole thing and know exactly what's going on. And if you don't have that open channel of communication, you don't have the relationships with the employees that foster that, the empowerment that we pointed at earlier, then you're not getting all that information. So you're having employees just sign checks and send money away that they shouldn't be sending away, equating to a $50,000 oopsie at the end of the year.
Is Elon Musk building a car? Is Jeff Bezos packaging boxes? No. Why? Because he needs to make sure that the bigger things are looked after. And if there's a money hemorrhaging over here, he's not in there with a screwdriver fixing it. He's saying, how do we fix this? Do I overload someone else? Do I bring someone on? Do I just bring someone on a contract so that I know what my set rate is? Bringing people in on contract is actually a really smart way of doing business, which you and me, obviously, we feed on that. But because you do a 6 months contract with certain parameters, you've got a flat rate and then any additionals. Now, whether that's a 6 month, a 1 year, 3 years, whatever that contract is, you can account for that. But if you bring someone on hourly to do that, or you bring someone on salary to do that, you have an obligation. You can't just cut them loose in a year. Now you're running into legal issues. So bringing someone on contract to solve problems, not to be the person that, runs your register or your accounts payable. Those are things that you need consistently. You want stability and you want permanency with that position. Yeah. But a marketing agency, right? Like yourself, ideally, you'd like to be with that company forever. But a smarter way of doing it for them is to renew contracts, because then there's not that reservation of, oh, I'm locked into these guys for the rest of my life. What if we have a falling out? Or what if we go in a different direction?
Well, and it incentivizes performance. Because if I want to keep my contract, I better be doing a good job.
I talked to someone that
if I'm not bringing in money or customers, then what's the point of being there, right?
Yeah. So hiring an in-house marketer, lots of companies do that. Oh, we're looking for somebody in-house to look after this. Okay, you're bringing them on, but now you're assuming responsibility for the rest of their career, basically. And
you're stuck telling them what to do, without having any knowledge of marketing, which means the effectiveness is actually costing you money, ridiculous. And that's why people are still printing flyers. Just the fact that when I go to my mailbox and I pull out like this much, I go to my mailbox once a week and there's this much flyers, not a single one. I don't read a single one.
So, okay, let's dig into that for a second before we come back to wasting money, because I think flyers and business cards are two things that are very controversial at the moment with the changing of technology and how people respond to information. Yeah. So with flyers, do you think it's industry related, the effectiveness of them? Or do you feel that there's such a low percentage that take them seriously that it's worth it investing, let's say, online to people that view online all the time?
The only
the food industry, right? Yeah. Pizza flyers. To me, pizza flyers, I don't see them going away.
Right. Who uses them though?
But where else am I going to get the phone number or brand awareness, right? Like, you know what I mean? I'm not saying it's wrong or right, but I'm saying for me, a flyer comes in, I don't look at where to, go get my haircut through my flyers.
I just see that Pizza Hut,
the pizza number,
Domino's, and Little Caesars are still the only three options that I have. But the thing is like so when I'm hungry and I want to order something because I'm, not feeling up to cooking or doing dishes or whatever the thing is, where do I go?
Yeah.
I go on to skip the dishes and I scroll through the hundreds of different options. I pick one that I like and then I go with it. And they solved a really big hole in the thing, but they also eliminated the need for all this other stuff. So when you're spending that much money on flyers, the only real tangible benefit maybe is brand awareness, which is immeasurable. You can't measure how much brand awareness happens. Ask anybody who Domino's is, and they're all going to tell you it's a pizza place. Ask them a month from now, and they're probably going to say the same thing because they're still a pizza place. Nothing's changed. They're not doing any
TV commercials.
So the same thing applies with TV commercials because I record my shows on a PVR. I don't even have cable, to be honest with you. I'm thinking of my parents. They record their shows on their little PVR thing, and then when they're ready to watch it, they watch it back. And the instant a commercial comes, fast forward, and they know. My mom knows 12 times on the button, and they're back at their show. Like we do this. We watch Survivor together as a family. We come together every Wednesday. We hang out, to eat some food and watch Survivor. And every single time, it's just fast forward through the commercials because I can't get Survivor on demand on Netflix. And if I could get it on demand on Netflix, I would.
Yeah.
Right. And so we have to start thinking as businesses in terms of how people are actually interacting with us as businesses, which is why there's this, Chicken Little thing. The sky's falling. Marketing is dead. It's not actually dead. It's just that people are more attuned to content that brings them value than they are to anything else in this now. And with the ad blockers, like I got an ad blocker on every single one of my devices. So I actually don't even know the ads that I'm missing because I'm not even seeing them. So we got to start thinking in terms of how are we delivering value as a company to the people that we do. Now, check this out. I love this as an example because it's just so bizarre. There's a guy on TikTok that almost has 1 million followers. And you know what he does? He reviews sinks. A sink. He'll go to a gas station. He'll walk into the bathroom with his phone and record him rating how good that sink is. Do you know what he sells? Sinks. He just sells sinks to people who trust him because he's got 1 million followers. and he makes a handsome living at it. So if you're a business, you know what I mean? Let's say you're a roofer, you know what you should be doing? You should be doing a home and garden show. You should be sharing the information that you know. You should be on the roof and be like, oh my God, guys, I just saw this thing today and this is crazy because this is probably going to cost them $10,000 in damages. If you don't know, you should probably call a roofer and go check it out. Odds are they're probably just going to send you a message because they're right there.
Mm-hmm.
They're not going to go to Google and look up a different roofer. They're going to go to you.
So let's say that I had a budget of $1,000.
Yeah.
With a budget of $1,000, hypothetically, what would be my range of people reached with print versus online?
Okay, so what was the number?
So let's just say $1,000. You can pick a different number if you want.
So for print media, I remember doing and this was a long time ago, and the prices have probably changed a little bit. But we did a 10,000 person mail out. Mm-hmm. It was like a 6x9 card. It was offering a free security system for this local security company, and I think it was like a value of like $2,000 worth of security equipment. And all they had to do was just qualify for the monthly monitoring package, which was very, very cheap. I think it was like $30 a month or something like that. We did $5,000, reached 10,000 people in a local mail out. So our ROI on that was negative $5,000. Not a single person responded to the flyers. This is about 2 years ago, and I'm only suspecting that since over that 2 years, flyers have only gotten worse. They're not on an upward incline. It's not like there's some wave of people going out and reading flyers because they're super exciting. I'm just imagining that they're still on a continuous decline. So after spending $5,000 to reach 10,000 people, we got nothing. Now, if I took that same $5,000 for $2,000, I could reach 50,000 people online.
And
highly targeted, very, very close to my demographic. Now, if my offer isn't right, people aren't going to respond to it.
Right.
So there's the catch-22. Also, if I don't have brand awareness, if I'm a newer company or I haven't done any marketing in that area and people don't recognize me, it's going to take a little bit of time for me to grow on them, for them to learn about me and trust me as an authority in that space. The fastest way to get through that is by providing high value content, much like what we're doing right now in this very podcast. So if we take this very podcast and we talk about things like how to optimize your business so that you can grow it more effectively, there are business owners that need that information. So let's just say I target people in North America and Canada, and I spend maybe $2,000 or $3,000 just to show them this podcast. I'm going to have a higher rate of return on people just calling me randomly because they're like, oh shit, he actually knows what he's talking about. We need that in our business because we want to grow. We're at that point where we want to grow. So I can help them. And I'm going to get more calls off that than I would have me being like, hey guys, I'm a marketer and I'm going to make your business grow. And then I put an ad out there because people ignore it. But when there's value there, there's importance, there's something there. Like, just think about your own habits when you're scrolling through these Facebook things. Like, think about the humanity. Forget the robots and the algorithms and the math and all this other crazy stuff. Remember the humanity. Somebody is on the other side of this device looking at it. And if it looks hinky, they're not interacting with it. If it looks like you're immediately asking for somebody's money, they're not looking at it.
Look how much I've complained to you lately.
Right?
About the garbage I'm seeing.
Yeah. And that's why it's failing. That's why it's people that don't know what they're doing. But I grew up here. Like, you remember AOL? You remember when you used to get a CD in your cereal box and you'd open it up and put it in your computer and then it would, the dial-up modems? Like, that's where I spent all my time, was in chat rooms and forums and interacting with people socially online. And then the evolution of that, Facebook and Instagram and YouTube. Like, the YouTube's the second largest search engine database that exists in the world. When I have a problem with something, let's say I was trying to edit a video and for some reason I can't figure out how to do like some certain effect that I was looking for. Maybe I saw like the opening on a TV show. And I was like, I really like that. I'd like to apply some of that over here, but I have no idea how they did that. So I'm going to go on YouTube and I'm going to search how to do the Sherlock Holmes effect. And guess what? Tens of thousands of videos are going to pop up that will show me exactly how to do the thing that I want to do. So what if you were a business that did that? And check this out. If I wanted the Sherlock Holmes look, there's a thing that I can buy. It's called a LUT, and it's an effect that you apply over a video. And there are people that sell LUTs in packages or individually. So I find that YouTube video of the guy showing me how to use his LUT, and then I buy it from him by clicking the link in that description, and it's only $2. But guess how many views that video has? Because so many people want the Sherlock Holmes look, that video has 10 million views. So even if 1% of the people that viewed that actually paid the $1 to get the thing, think about how much money he would have. So in terms of being
transactions are definitely becoming popular.
Right? In terms of being a business and trying to reach
like microtransactions, right? Yeah.
Having that content in that space and available for them to get access to you, that's the place that you start. So you spend $5,000 on flyers and you're literally just burning money. Put it in the toilet and flush the toilet as many times as it takes for you to get rid of $5,000, because you're going to have way more fun doing that than you are looking at the lack of people coming into your business after blowing money on something foolish like that. Now, let's just say you have billions of dollars. You are Pizza Hut or Little Caesars. Blow your money. You know what I mean? Every little bit might do something, but I suspect that most businesses aren't in that place and they have no idea how any of this works. So they fall prey to
and I think that kind of brings it. Yeah, I think that kind of brings it back to like, so we're talking about just bad allocation of funds.
Yeah.
And is marketing in the top tier of bad allocation? I'm not even in marketing, and I probably see that quite a bit, right? Because people just think, oh, I'm going to run a flyer ad or run it in the paper or whatever. And I think unless it's a local focus and you're going to do something local, yeah, I think there's that, because people are drawn to that. They want to support local. So they'll support something local in that form. But as far as kind of a mass campaign, it also limits you, I guess, because even if you did catch a demographic from a flyer, you're still only in that catchment that you sent that to. Whereas online, that demographic could be spread out over a much larger geographical net, right? And now because you've spent all that extra money, you want to cut costs on your employees, right? So, and that's kind of where it comes down, where your return on investment on an employee should be a lot higher than your return on investment on marketing, right? So why would you cut the thing that's bringing you more revenue?
Right, because the employees that are working for you are directly interfacing with the people that you're trying to serve. And if they're not happy, they're not going to be serving them to the highest degree. Like, you just think about this. When you went through a drive-through last, do you remember like the last time the person at the window taking your money like even said words to you? It's been a long time for me. They hold the stick out with the,
right.
You know what I mean? And then you beep your card and then you just go, and then you get to the next window and they just hand you a bag. And like, if you got to ask for barbecue sauce or something, and they're like, oh, you know, they're huffing over a 10-cent thing that costs that company less than a cent. And like, now I got to dig through my thing because they have an attitude about it now. Like, how dumb is that? Mm-hmm. It frustrates me as a customer when I'm interacting. So you got to look at, like, examine your business and where is your 10-cent mistake? That thing that's screwing up in your business that you just haven't been paying attention to, just because you're so far away from it. Yeah. You don't see that that's happening.
Yeah. And especially if you're in multiple locations, like that's where franchises, I think, really, they do so well that they don't care about that little stuff that isn't really a big deal to them. But I mean, you and me we're not going after McDonald's, right? We're not trying to help McDonald's.
Yeah.
They've got their own help, right? We're trying to help the smaller guys, the guys that maybe haven't made the jump even to start a business yet, or the people that are just managing a team, or the people that maybe have a business and do want to grow it. And those little things like that's a make or break. That's the difference between having the opportunity to expand and grow or reevaluating your structure.
Yeah.
And it seems silly, you know, when we're talking about pennies, but I think anyone with a size of business like you or me, the pennies, they're important because they add up. And you don't really, as much as we talk is in previous, I was thinking about this the other night, our podcasts are a lot like, start it, do it, take the risk, be confident, do it. There's still a reality that you have to expect, right? There is still a strategy. Anyone can start a business, and I think anyone should start a business, but you still need a strategy. And if you are not confident with your own strategy, that's where you bring in someone like us and say, here's the strategy, because that's where we're going to make sure that there are no pennies falling out of your pockets. There is no hemorrhaging. We're going to decide, hey, so I talked to a guy a couple of weeks ago, and he started a company, and his job is as a third party contract, like we were talking about earlier, for the safety forms. Because a lot of mid-sized companies have a safety officer or somebody that just focuses on all those forms. And there's a lot of time. And if you're paying someone hourly, even on salary, that's a lot of money to pay someone to look after that, because there's a lot of garbage that you got to go through. Like there's a lot of legalities and liabilities. So this guy, for a flat rate, does all your paperwork for you and then sends it into you. And then if he sees something that needs to be adjusted, he sends that back, said, hey, I need this filled out differently. He takes it, organizes it, and has it in a stack and emails it to you, so that when it comes time to do like a safety audit, you just open that file, boom, it's done. And you've paid less than you would as an employee. But that mentality of, oh, that's a third party guy, I don't want to put out extra money for that. I'd rather just hire somebody.
You're still spending the money, but you're spending it on somebody who has no idea what they're doing.
And now, because an employee, so they qualify for your benefits package, they qualify for under your workers' safe, your insurance, all these other things it qualifies you for. That's an extra expense every time you bring on an employee. But hiring a guy that's a third party to look after all of that, there's no cost to that. You know your rate, right? And that's just one department. And that's a department that does not have to be internal, right? Accounts receivable should be internal, right? Inside sales, that should probably be an internal thing in your business. But, something like safety, there's companies that look after that for you. Your taxes, lots of people do their own taxes. Lots of people don't.
Right.
Go to H&R Block. What's their big claim to fame?
I can't trust myself to do my taxes because I don't know the things that I need to know. So yeah, I hire somebody that knows those things to do those things. I think about it in terms of like, the position that you're in as a sales coach and as a business development guy. When you have a team of salesmen who you've trained yourself because you had a thing that worked. Here's what works for me. I get on the phone, I make a call, I send an email, then I follow up on the phone. Like you've systemized it to some degree. Maybe there's a script you follow. Now I bring in somebody and I train them on that, but I'm training them on my scope of knowledge, right? Now they're doing well. They're not doing horribly. We're still getting some sales, but let's think about it in terms of what are we losing? If I had a team of 2 salespeople and they're closing 10 sales every month because they're limited scope of knowledge, and they should be closing 20 sales, but they can't, again, because of that limited scale of knowledge, I'm actually losing those extra 10 sales. So that's extra 10 sales, at a few thousand each for some of these really big jobs could be worth a considerable amount of money. But hire Mitch, $1,500, $2,000, whatever. Let's do a quick training thing. Let's get everybody up to par. They're getting information they never had. Now their scope of knowledge has just expanded and grown. And that's like a one-time thing. But now that month, they doubled their sales. Now what? Do you see what I'm saying? Oh my God, we have so much going on. Maybe we should hire some more salespeople. Maybe we should hire some more people to fulfill the work, and so on and so forth. So when you weigh out the 10 grand that you're losing every month by not getting the right sales versus the 2,000 that it's going to cost you to get your people trained up to the right level, is it worth it losing that every single month?
But if you don't have that,
to lose that,
if you don't have that perspective, standing back and look at that's why big corporations, they look at quarterlies. Right. Yeah. Banks, big airline companies, which I'm not going to talk about right now, but they go quarterly. Why? Because when you take a step back and you say, okay, where did the numbers go? Are they where we want? then those little things like, oh, spending this amount of money on a training seminar and getting the return, it got us the results we want. Maybe it wasn't just that one thing. Maybe it was a combination, but it wasn't a loss. It's proven by the numbers. But if you look at a day-to-day, say, oh, we put out this much money for Mitch or for Devin, on this Friday, and then they look at that week and be like, oh, we're down. It's like, no, you're not. You're not down, right? Because that's market sensitivity goes day to day. Look at the stock market. Look at Wall Street. That's a second by second, right? But when you look over, and that's when you're buying stocks, they say, hey, look at what your annual is. The 5-year average of investments. If you're not at 7 to 9%, you're in the wrong market, right? Don't accept less than 4% on your investments. That's wrong. But the average person thinks that, hey, that's acceptable, and it's not. But if you look at it day to day and you see the fluctuation that happens every day, it's going to throw your perspective out, which is sad because you're losing out. So in a business, when you invest in some training, if it's quality training and you like it and you like what it brings to the table, you have to step back and say, what's it going to do for a month or for a quarter? Because if it's not benefiting me by a quarter, it wasn't the right one, right? That was a bad course. You should see return on investment every quarter. Yeah. Unless it's like, substantial, but for smaller businesses, that's how you can average it out. Is this a good value buy?
Which begs the question, do you know what to measure? Do you know how to measure that? Do you know what to do in the event that the things that you're measuring aren't adding up to what your expectations are or what your goals that you've set out are or any of that thing? Do you have the skill? Well, probably not, because you've been so focused on all these other aspects of growing your business that there's this piece that you never even considered, let alone did you have an education in a background in that, right? Just like like the marketing and social media and all that kind of stuff. So you're new to this. You have 10 Facebook friends and most of them are your family. You know what I'm saying? Like, how do you even have an idea of how other people interact with you outside of, your circle? You have zero idea. I've taken Facebook accounts and started them at 0 and then added friends daily until I reached the absolute max of 5,000 people. I've done that with only adding female friends. I've done that with only adding male friends. I've analyzed, what do the female friends talk about with each other? What do they talk about with me? The male friends, what do they do? You know what I'm saying? Like, there's all this subtle, nuanced stuff that you just don't have the time for. And it's not a jab at your intelligence. It's just shining a light or highlighting that there is a lot more to it than what you think. And you may or may not have had the time or even the exposure to understand or identify those things so that you can grow your business more efficiently. Just right back to the coffee thing. If you think you're saving $400, and logically that makes sense. But what you didn't see happening as a trickle effect was the loss of productivity, lower company culture. The morale goes down, and now you have less effective employees. And you're like, why aren't they doing their job? I don't understand. Like, everything should be adding up, and it's because you made that one single cut on a thing that you shouldn't have made that cut on. What you should have been doing is maybe investing in your employees or educating them or training them or elevating them so that they can serve the higher goal more effectively.
I'm observed a company recently and put a fairly large investment into let's just call it expansion. They bought some real estate, did some big renovations, spent about $1 million. Well, they took off and did so well so quickly in one of their departments there, and gained some really large accounts that it was like, okay, we can't facilitate all this. We need to do either a little expansion or we need to make some adjustments. And the owner is like, I just invested $1 million. I don't want to do anymore. But if they don't do that, they will lose those big accounts and it won't even justify the initial investment. So, his reservation, he's not looking at it like, in order to maintain the largest accounts we're probably ever going to get, we need to make this adjustment over here. And yeah, upfront, it's going to cost a little bit of money, but that account will pay for it in a year.
And then some.
He does. Yeah, exactly. And then the longevity of it. That's just return on investment. But if you don't make that choice, you're going to lose that. And then you have to find it somewhere else. And what's the cost of that investment? That's just because you can't put it in a spreadsheet doesn't mean it doesn't exist. Mm-hmm. And that's a struggle that I see it happening in this company, but it's a common problem, right? You have that person that's like, oh, I put out this money. It's like, okay, but who said that $1 million was allocated right to begin with? Right? You made that because it looks good and it's the right, it's a good building. It fits, services what you think the capacity is going to be. So that's just poor judgment on your site by looking at other people. You didn't take into consideration how well that business was going to do. You didn't realize how well your managers were going to perform. And because they exceeded your expectations, you're penalizing them and you're making them work harder, and they're going to leave.
Well, and then boil it back down to, okay, if you spend $1 million and it makes you 10, are you not going to spend $1 million?
And I don't know how to teach that to people, right? That's my struggle. You can't, some people are really receptive. They're like, I've put out this money. I don't really have money to expand. So what do I do? Right? I don't want to sacrifice what I have. And that's where, that meeting comes down, that consultation, and say, look, what is your goal? What do you want to do? Because stop looking at the potential. Stop looking at, oh, we're getting all these calls. And let's focus on what you can physically facilitate right now with your infrastructure. And how solid is your infrastructure? Because it's okay to turn work away. I think that's something that people are scared to do because it's like, oh, I want to take it all. But if you take it all and you can't service them to the best of your ability, any of them, then what good was it? Because they're never going to come back. You want to keep that
from a scarcity mindset.
That you want to keep that demand going.
Yeah.
So you want to say, I service my customers 100%. They love me and they will stay with me. And all these other people are like, well, how do I get in there? I want to be there. I want him to come. And it's like, hey, we can't take any more right now. And they're like, well, what will it take? And you're like, you're going to have to wait 6 months because we have to make some adjustments to accommodate for you so that we can still keep you at that level. But if you just take them on because you're like, oh, we got to take all this on, then you'll end up with no one. And it's okay to be at your max and to say no to people. I had to learn that lesson because I love helping people, right? So I take everything very personally and I take on that. And I'd be like, yeah, I can do that for you because I see that that's what you need. And 2 days in, I'm like, I can't facilitate this. This is way too much. I shouldn't have taken this on. Yeah. So what good did I do? All there's going to be tension, some animosity. That person probably would have called me back if I had just been upfront and being like, I can't take this on. The next time there's an opportunity, they're still going to come to me. Right. Yeah. And I think that's what people are scared of. They're like, oh, well, if I let them go to the competition, they're going to stay there. Well, if they're going out of the competition out of desperation, guess what? They're not going to stay. They're not going to stay there because they're going to see that you're still keeping the values that attracted them in the first place. And that's a hard pill to swallow. That's a hard one for people to just trust their own skills and trust that people want them.
Well, and I think of like the psychology of it. You know what I'm saying? Like, if I'm in a relationship with somebody and I want them to love and respect me, that includes me setting healthy boundaries. And so if we take that same principle and apply it into business, when you ask me to do a thing and I know that I'm incapable of doing that, you trust me to be able to say no. That's the point of that. So when I say, listen, we don't have the capability to fulfill the thing that you're looking to do, we want to make sure that it gets done to the highest quality possible. In order for that to happen, this is the parameters for that to take place. It means either you got to wait a few months until we have the capacity, or you got to pay a little bit more so that we can create the infrastructure to make that happen. You know what I'm saying? But see, I come from the mindset of like, okay, if that's what you're looking for, how do I make that happen? How do I get that as a solution? And I know I'm fully capable. I know that I can find the right people. I know that I can do this and do that. It's going to take me time. It's going to take me effort. It's going to take some money. It's going to take an investment. And that's exactly what it is. So by setting that healthy boundary right from the very beginning and saying, listen, I can't do it right now the way that you want it, But if you want it done the way that you want it, here are the solutions that I can provide for you. And then we can work together to achieve that. And so in the example that you set out, like the $1 million situation, okay, so you want X as an outcome, you want growth in your business, a predictable level of growth. In order for that to happen, we do need to spend this on building out the infrastructure for that to occur. Once we get that achieved, this is where we're going. So is it a priority for you to go there? Or are you comfortable where you're at and you want to just keep that $1 million for yourself and then go spend it on something that has no ROI? Because maybe that guy's like, yeah, that $1 million is like a nice boat and a vacation for me, and it maybe a truck, and you know what I'm saying? Like, so he's got his eyes. So that's more of a priority to him than growing a business in a sustainable way. And if that's the case, fine. You got to understand the cost of that, right? Yeah. And I don't know, having somebody who sees it from that, bird's eye view or the higher perspective, I think is super valuable in any business. This is why corporations have board of directors, multiple people from multiple backgrounds with multiple pieces of information, so that they can come in and look at it and go, okay, well, I see this, I see this, I see this, I see this. Okay, then this looks like the best possible outcome. Let's head in that direction, and then we're good. But if you're a small company and you're kind of on the way up, the only way that you're ever going to achieve those outcomes or those goals is now you got to take the time yourself to go learn the things. So if you don't know how to do accounting, and you know what I'm saying? Now you're spending a couple of years learning how to do accounting, because it's not just a simple math equation. There's software and there's laws and there's, the complexities of the different places that you're in and where you're doing business and the different jobs and invoices and all this other. So now you're in trouble. So that's a huge expense. But you don't see it that way. You're like, the bigger expense is spending $1,000 getting my taxes done this month. I can't afford that. Well, can you afford 2 years of not doing it right? Well, because what's the cost of that?
Someone made the comment to me. If you ever want to get paid really crappy, go into work for yourself. And I was like, then you're obviously doing it wrong.
Yeah.
Right. Because with that mindset, you are taking it all on yourself so that you can achieve that higher profit. But if you're going to complain about because you invested more time to save some costs, you're looking at it wrong. You're putting yourself back in an hourly perspective. Oh, I only made $13 an hour. Maybe. But did it support a lifestyle you liked? Did it what was the end game? Because you're still doing that. Like, you haven't gone and worked at Burger King. If that was more profitable, why aren't you working there? Oh, you did make $100,000. Oh, okay. So let's call this what it is, right? And I think people like that, they like to look at, they almost look too much into it. If you don't want to spend the time, then you have to pay someone to do that. And if you don't want to pay someone to do that because it cuts into your profits, then don't complain about the time you have to spend. There's only so much time, and projects take a certain amount of time. We don't have all the luxury of a 10-year pipeline project, right? That's just not within our grasp at our level. We have to look at the smaller tasks. So how much time is it worth it for you to invest in it before you pay someone? And those are things a third party I can't answer those questions for you. I can ask them, but you have to answer them. And when you answer them, then you can set your clear steps and your clear goals as to where you want to achieve it and how you want to achieve it. And that's where I can, and then I can say, okay, here's some things that from other successful businesses of your level that have come together. And here's the information for you. I gathered it. Here's a strategy. Oh, I don't like that strategy. Okay, then let's make another one. And we do it until there's one that fits what is comfortable for you, but all of them will get you to that goal. I'm not ego, and I know it's not going to succeed. Right? You have to kind of take it as it comes, and you have to pick the right one for your goals.
Yeah, and be aware that sometimes you're not going to hit it out of the park right away.
Yeah.
Like, you might think that, okay, here's 2-3 strategies that are going to, do this to achieve this outcome. You got to pick one. And you're never going to know the alternatives. When you pick one, you go with it. And the longer you spend exploring, well, what if these other options, the longer you're wasting time, wasting money, misallocating your resources and your funds to grow your business. You got to just pick one and go with it. And if it turns out that that wasn't the best decision, then we make a new decision. Then we go into another direction. And that comes from, having somebody like you who's been in that space for a very long time, worked with many companies. You have a deeper level of knowledge of the different possibilities, the different options of strategies and outcomes. But a single person in a single business from that single paradigm can only see that lane, right? So having somebody come in and go, oh, there's this lane, there's this lane, there's this track, you can go on this path, that all of this exists. It's like, oh God, I didn't even know. I never thought that I couldn't see it, right? Because you can't see the trees with the forest at that point. You're so close to the painting, you can't see the masterpiece. But somebody's standing back going, all you need to do is, a couple of strokes there and this thing's complete.
Yeah. I think people admit part of the misunderstanding is that, oh, you don't know my industry.
Right.
I don't need to know your products. I don't need to know what you sell. Business, yes, there's minor tweaks in different industries. That's true. But the foundation of a business and the structure of a successful business, it's the same regardless whether you're selling widgets or, building mansions. It doesn't matter. And that's proven when you've got CEOs that move from company to company. The company is irrelevant. What they do
it doesn't matter at all.
Right? The CEO for Sony turns around and starts working for, some other product that's completely irrelevant to electronics. Guess what? He's still valuable because he understands what needs to be done. And he understands this wide range now. He's probably actually more experienced now because he has worked for multiple industries. But that's where people are like, especially with sales teams, like, be a company. It's like, we're looking for a salesman that has 5 years in this industry. Why? What a waste of time searching for somebody that doesn't exist because you don't want to train them on your product. It's laziness is what that is. You're giving up talent, right? You're not searching for talent because product can be trained. Product can be trained so easily. You get a qualified salesperson who's good at relationships, has a work ethic, is trustworthy, is cooperative. You think they're going to be hard to train on product? Like, get over yourself. Like, seriously, it's so infuriating. I kind of leaned into a recruiter one time pretty hard because I was like, they want a guy with a bachelor's degree and they want a guy with 10 years experience in that industry. Why? It's an ego thing because they want to prance around your scholarship to all their customers. But you're passing up the opportunity for these two candidates who have proven track records of doing excellent work, succeeding in their industries, but you don't want to train them on and you're not willing to put them through a little bit of training for your products. And they don't have a degree behind their name that you have this policy that you only work with people with degrees. Well, you know what? You may be looking for a Wayne Gretzky when all you need is a hockey player. And It's just, there's only one of those every 20, 30 years. Like, just put it aside. It's so infuriating because there's people that are missing out on being qualified for good opportunities for them. That would be a very symbiotic relationship because of a vision that's just wrong. And I think that companies that look at somebody for people because that they don't have to train, well, now you're also risking bringing someone in with bad habits. Somebody that worked for the competition that you stand against. The competition's the enemy. Well, you want them to bring all the policies with them because they've been there for 30 years? What's going to cost you more money? Training a good salesman on your product or retraining somebody who knows the product?
Because uninstalling that shit in somebody's head is way more difficult than helping somebody see something from the perspective that you aim for them to have. I think about it. It reminds me of a really good friend of mine, and this is how we met. He shared a video on LinkedIn a couple of years ago, and he said, there's a saying that we all know, a jack of all trades is a master of none. And I have been told this a lot because I'm like an ADD guy. I like to just be creative and go and do lots and lots of things. And, when I was younger, it was even worse. It took me a long time to really focus and hone in on, one of the things that really brought me, fulfillment. But I was jaded by that saying. And I thought that I would never be successful. He said that's only a piece of the actual full quote. And people use it to hurt each other. But it's actually meant to empower people because there's a whole other side to it. So it goes, a jack of all trades is a master of none, but oftentimes better than a master of one. So I think about this. I've worked with a motorcycle company. I've worked with a car dealership. I've worked with a painting company. I've worked with a dog grooming salon. I've worked with a personal trainer. I've worked with... Now, each of them all have their own tiny little things that are very important to them in the way that they communicate with the people that they aim to serve. The people that they aim to serve are a little bit different in how they want to be served and how they want to be communicated with. But each of these offers a little bit more insight into human behavior just generally and the way that we want to interact with, let's say, an advertisement. We don't want to be sold to, but we want to buy shit. We're out here spending money we don't have on Amazon things so that they get delivered instantly to our door. You know what I'm saying? It didn't take them much to sell us that product. They just had to be the right place, right time. And that's what marketing is being in the right place at the right time. The attention of arbitrage. How much does it cost to get that attention? How much am I going to make on the other side? Once you combine those two elements, everything kind of comes together and it all falls in place. So having the knowledge from all of these different spaces means that I bring something unique to the table that somebody who only specifies in this thing is. Let's say this guy's only thing is SEO, search engine optimization. So that's what you get. And unfortunately, to a hammer, everything looks like a nail. Yeah. Right? I can take a screw and I can hammer it in. I can do that. Is it the best way to do it? Probably not. There's a much easier way, a much more effective way, a much stronger way to achieve that goal. But this is unfortunately the paradigm that people get stuck in when it comes to, the responsible use of the resources that they have available, including the employees, the people that work with them, their assets, and the way that they spend their money to grow their business and to continue to maintain that business in some tangible or meaningful way.
I think data collection is something that's very underutilized. And, as a marketing agency, data collection is very important to you because you want to target your right demographic and get in front of the right people. But you go to the average business that just maybe throws their own posts out or maybe they're good at it and that's okay. But as a business owner, do you want to spend time collecting data on your consumers? Maybe you do. Okay? And that's important. But that means that you're taking time away from doing your books, make customer acquisition. You're taking time away from things that are just as important, and you're only one person. But data collection, if you want to generate leads, I don't care what the guys on LinkedIn and YouTube are telling you that they can give you 1 million leads in a month. It's all relative. It's within certain parameters. It's within certain demographics. It's certain industries. If you want lead generation and you want accurate intel on the market, you need data collection. And you need feedback from your customers. You need to ask them the right questions. What brought you here? Why, who are you? What are you doing with the product I'm doing or the service that I'm giving? These are questions you have to ask. And as a business owner, you don't have the time to do that with every person. You have to rely and train your people to collect that data if you're not going to bring on somebody like yourself or like me that looks and does development of your business. But that data, that is the building block for going into a direction. Otherwise, you're just shooting blind. And some guys get lucky and hit it, but it was a fluke. It wasn't strategy. They were at the right place, right time. Yeah, that's great. But if you think Amazon was done without a strategy and without consultation, you're lying to yourself, because he was not a one-man army. He may have started that way, but he is not a one-man company anymore. And neither is Tesla. Or you go on and on to some of these ones that are really in your face. I use them a lot just because they're very relatable with everybody. Yeah. But they have people for that. Apple, Microsoft, Bill Gates, Steve Jobs. Yeah, one-man shows for a period of time. And then guess why they got so big? Because of data collection. They asked the consumers. They talked to them. And now Apple is an empire in itself, right? They're not competing with Microsoft.
No.
Because
not even a little bit.
No, because people that are Apple, they don't have to convince them that Microsoft's the enemy. And people that are Microsoft or Android, they don't have to convince them that Apple's the enemy. They're already doing it on their own. People love conflict, right? They created conflict. And that's why they succeeded so much, is they just created this empire. Red Bull, same thing. I talked about Red Bull before with their index, but Red Bull did something that not a lot of other companies did. Red Bull stayed independent and created an empire. They got the Red Bull games, Red Bull this, Red Bull that. Yeah, it's funded off of a drink, but they created a culture, and they know more about their consumers than you'd be think that they do. They know what their consumers want. They targeted an audience. They love the consumers that love sports, extreme sports. So they fed on that, and they created all the Red Bull games. It's incredible what they did, right? But Coke and Pepsi did the same thing, but they didn't necessarily just do it with Coke and Pepsi. They did it with Monster and Rockstar. Energy drinks, guess what? Motocross, X Games, Rockstar, Monster. You see them. They've created this following. But why did they do that? They could have said, hey, we have Coke. But they didn't, because they understood their consumers. They collected data. They paid people to find out, ask those questions, do the surveys, follow up. And they realized that they needed an energy drink. They needed not just an energy drink, but they needed a brand that people would follow like a religion. And that's what Red Bull did. And they set that precedent. And I love Red Bull for that. They did something. They didn't just say, hey, how do we fix this drink, or how do we make it better? Red Bull hasn't changed in the past 15 years. I remember when it first came over in the little glass bottles, it tastes the exact same.
Yeah.
They haven't made an adjustment, and there's not 700 lines of Red Bull. There's like a sugar-free and a non. Maybe there's a third one I don't know about, but they created a culture and they found the data to do it.
And I hear people right now, like I know that somebody's watching this right now and they're going, yeah, but they also had millions and millions of dollars and investors and all this other stuff to gather that data. Listen, it does not take millions and millions of dollars to gather the right data. When was the last time you went on Facebook and ran a survey ad? If you went on Facebook and you even used just Google Forms, created a survey around your business, asking some key important questions, and then spent $100 on that. Just spend $100 getting people to do that and offer them something to do it. Reward them for doing this. If you're a coffee shop, you want to know more about the people that you're serving, spend it, give them a free coffee to go. Hey, guess what, guys? We're giving away free coffees to anybody that fills out this survey. It takes 1.5 minutes. Just quickly answer some questions because we want to help you better. We want to be able to serve you more. Just here's a couple of questions. How many businesses are doing that?
The big ones are, and not because of money.
Because they know that there's so much value in that. And if you had $100, you could get so much valuable information. There's a book that I read that asks 9 key questions about like you're doing your avatar development, things about the person that you're serving so that you can get to know that person better. And the example they used as one of the case studies, just to kind of illustrate this idea, I can't remember the name of the avatar that they created, but they literally created a human being, and her name was, let's just say, Angela. And in the meeting that they were having with a marketing company, the marketing company was pitching them on this idea, and they kept saying like, oh, you know what, Angela wouldn't really like that. Maybe Angela would like this, you know, that kind of thing. And the marketing company's like, why don't we just bring Angela in here and have a conversation with her? Because I'm tired of trying to, and they're like, no, Angela is our customer. That's the person we're trying to serve. That's the avatar that we've developed. And she might be a hypothetical human being, but we know what she likes because we've spent time asking these 9 key questions. So if you're watching this or whatever, reach out and I can share. I have a document. I'll just, send you a link to it. You can download it and use that for your own business. But I'm telling you that how challenging it is to actually answer these questions. Like, what does Angela fear? What is she afraid of? You know what I mean? What are her hopes and dreams? Do you know what the hopes and dreams are of the people that you're trying to serve? Like, what's a day in the life look like? Here's why that's so important. Because when you go and take a piece of content and you put it in front of that person and it doesn't address those things, they're not interested in you at all. If somebody's dream is to have a house that protects their family and the roof might be the problem, their fear is maybe it's going to leak and then cost them thousands of dollars and they can't, and the insurance, the deductible and whatever else, you know what I'm saying? If their fear is that, and their dream is to protect their family, then you can structure now the communications. Now you can talk to that family. You can talk to Susie and Bob and say, listen, Susie and Bob, we know your dream is to take care of your family in a really good way. Have you considered that maybe the roof on your house might rot your house? And this is why this is happening to houses everywhere that we see, and nobody even knows. Now you have a way that you can communicate with the people in a way that actually matters to them. And how effective is that compared to, hey, buy my thing?
Yeah.
Right.
I'll end with this one. So I took your advice and I posted a survey. Now, no, I didn't put any money into it. I had a little bit of response for it. And I only had, I don't know if I had 50 people respond. I don't know. But I learned more from those 50 people and it made me really aware, because these weren't you can't see who voted, but I know,
you know, they're in your network.
But I know them in my network, and I know my network, and just the generalization of where they come from. And they were so wrong that it blew my mind, because I put it out and I didn't put it with a right answer or wrong answer. I stated, where do you think the majority of added revenue comes from? So that was the question. Well, I think you saw it, right? And there was
like 3 options.
Yeah, there was 3. There was outside sales, inside sales, marketing. And no, is there a wrong answer? No, in a sense. But 100%, 100 put outside sales. And so I thought I had to reevaluate my life.
Yeah.
Because I was like, wait a sec. Am I out to lunch here? Because I said added revenue. And so I started phoning people. I asked them, I'm like, okay, this is what happened. This is the question I asked. Here's the answers. And they're like, oh, no, it's this one. I'm like, yeah. Do you know that not one single person that voted on that picked that answer? And they were blown away. They're like, what do you mean that one didn't win? I'm like, okay, I'm not crazy. So I checked with someone else. But what I learned was that misunderstanding of how things work, I'm like, that's the hole. That's the problem.
Which gives you an opportunity to fill that hole.
Continue to educate.
Yeah.
Yes.
And so
that little data collection.
Podcast.
Yeah. That little data collection, right? 50 people, would have been nice to have 100,000. Yeah. It's just not a reality for me right now. But those few people that responded, that data collection that I got from them for free proves my point that my curriculum is accurate and that there's a need for it. So, taking this right back to kind of the beginning is, yes, it comes at a cost. Everything nothing's free, right? Even that time for me to do that cost me something, maybe not monetary, but it cost me time to put it together. It cost me time to research. That's fine. But for people to say it's not worth the investment to find that, or pay someone to do that, or get a third party agency in to do that marketing campaign or that business development, you better make investment. You better make sure that there's not a single thing hemorrhaging money in your company so that you can't justify that. You're that tight. If you're that tight where there's nothing hemorrhaging, there's no money being wasted on something unknowing, then yeah, you probably don't need these third parties. But I have yet to see a company that doesn't have money going somewhere that is unnecessary, and just to reallocate those funds for a short period of time. I'm not even saying keep me on board for 10 years, right? Because once I'm gone, that's just now money in your pocket that we found. And you can continue to pocket that money or reinvest or do whatever you want with it.
Well, part of it is
but
too,
you
is
have,
like
if you don't see the money,
right? Like,
yeah,
eventually when we come into a company, we do so well that you're not going to need us forever, because once you get these principles down, you don't need it. So off you go, and you can do great things with your company.
So just evaluate your business or your business strategy, and don't right away assume that a third party is a waste of money or something not valuable, just because there's a lot of third parties that are crap.
Right.
There are, I told you earlier before this that I had someone reach out and just say they appreciated how I distinguish myself from everyone else. I wasn't just part of that pool of sharks telling people, dreams that they could achieve for an X amount of dollars. That's not what I do. And so, that's somebody that said they will be a client. Straight up. They told me that. It's like, okay, that's really cool, because that's someone that sees the value and saying, hey, I need an external perspective. I need someone to come in and bring some experience that they've, gathered together that I don't have the time to do, and I don't have the resources to do. That's the value of a proper third party. And whether that's sales training, management training, business development, marketing, whatever it is, safety coordination, they're all things that are important. And you have to really evaluate, are you willing to sacrifice thinking you can do it all yourself and burn out at a cost? Or are you just going to take someone on temporarily to fix the problem? And that's this part of a strategy of a business. You have to make that decision.
Yeah, I think that's a perfect place to leave it. Anybody that's listening, watching, wherever you find this, like, subscribe, follow, share, tag a friend, let them know. And if you need additional help or you want some free resources, we got a couple of really cool things up on both of our websites for the sales and stuff like that with Mitch, bdlearning.org. And if you're looking for the marketing, seventreemedia.com. And I guess that's a wrap for this episode. We'll see you guys in the next one.